Mathew.
Mathew, how old are you, Mathew?
35.
35?
Yeah.
Okay, tell me a little about yourself, Mathew.
Well, I became a heroin addict originally through because of a doctor.
Yeah.
Originally, you know what I mean? Like I was born in '87.
Okay.
So I grew up in the OxyContin era, you know, and all our friends were doing pills. We didn't realize that those pills, even though they were coming from a pharmacy, they might not have been coming from our doctor.
Right.
We didn't realize they were heroin pills. You know what I mean? And the reason why things are today, like this is the biggest open air drug market in the world, in the country, Kensington. Maybe in the world. It could be the world, you know, but I know for a fact it is the country. And if you think for 1 second that if the Philadelphia police didn't want to shut down Kensington, they couldn't, that's insanity. They want this to be how it is. And for the exact reason is the prison systems are a business, the rehabs are a business, the fucking halfway houses, recovery houses, all those things are a for-profit industry, and the more people they put in jail, the more money the local, state, and federal government makes, you know? Like, 35 years ago, Portugal, which is right next to Spain, was just like America, where they criminalized drug addicts and they sent them to prison for being addicts, and if you sold drugs, you were getting a state prison sentence, and it wasn't working. The community got together and they're like, yo, this is not working. We got to change the system because it's broken. Right? So they did a social experiment where they legalized every drug from cocaine to amphetamine and everything in between. And what they did was they took the money that America uses for the criminal justice system and they funneled it into programs for housing and job opportunities and education programs for addicts. And instead of putting hurdles up in front of addicts the way that we do here in America, you know what I mean? Like, I got put on probation in 2013, and because of violating probation, because I'm a drug addict and I can't pass a piss test,
right.
I did more years in jail than my man did for robbing a bank. I did 4 years in prison for 1 bag of heroin.
Wow.
Right? For violating probation. But, you know what I mean? Like, the American Medical Association classifies drug addiction as an illness, as a disease of the brain. No other disease do they criminalize people for having it. They don't send diabetics to prison for being sick.
Right.
Or people with heart disease, they don't lock them up because they're sick.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't rob to get money. I don't steal to get money. You know what I mean? I don't trick. I have ways to get money that are legal. You know what I mean? So the only the only crime I technically do is buying illegal substances. You know what I mean?
Right.
But back to Portugal, right? 35 years later, nobody in Portugal has got together and been like, yo, this isn't working. We want to go back to how things were before where like how it was, you know, when things were illegal. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know what I mean? And what happened was the black market completely dissolved. So the drug overdoses went down by like 2/3 because now the drugs are being regulated by the government quality control systems. You know what I mean? They're not being cooked in bathtubs by these Puerto Ricans that can't speak English, mixing up batches of fentanyl and horse tranq, which is doing shit like this to people. And that's what that is. It's horse tranq. But it's not from the xylazine.
Right.
What it is right? It's how they're getting it into the country.
Right.
And this is how they're doing it. If you're an American citizen that goes to Mexico and you die in Mexico, your family can pay to have your body shipped back to America. Well, they have their family come over that they're old and close to death, and they die in Mexico, and they stitch inside of their corpse bottles of xylazine, this tranq. You know what I mean? And the decomposition process contaminates the bottles of xylazine because it's only wrapped in cellophane. You know what I mean? Right. And that's what's causing all this. That's why like some people get it and some people don't, because it's not the tranq itself that's doing it. It's the like contaminated batches or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, and people aren't robbing and stealing to get money for drugs because you can get it at CVS Pharmacy instead of on Tip and Cambria. You know what I mean? Like, the problem in America is the system. When you're constantly told you're a bad person for being an addict, and you're a bad person for being, a scumbag or whatever, you believe it after a while. You know what I mean? It sinks in, and you lose hope. I don't feel like it's worth going to college and pursuing a career because now I have a criminal record.
Right? Education? What's the highest level of education?
I went to college. I went 1 year of college, but I didn't pursue a degree. I was gonna go to become a medical doctor at one point, but that's totally out of the question because I can't get a DEA license at this point. Yeah. But now, I mean, granted, you can still get a decent job as a felon and a drug addict, but it's gonna be manual labor. You know what I mean? You're gonna break your back every day for, you know what I mean? It's not like you're completely shit out of luck.
Right.
But in Portugal, what they give you, what they do is, if you choose to be an addict, they tell you, we'll support you just like any other citizen of our country, and we'll give you every opportunity that everybody else gets, and we'll love you and support you just like anybody else. If you want to get out of your addiction, there's the option to go to rehab. That still exists to get out if you want it, but it's not forced upon anybody, number one, through the probation system, and they don't put hurdles in front of people that just further spiral the fucking downfall,
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
You speak a lot on Portugal. Are you Portuguese at all?
No, but
how do you know much about them?
Actually, I learned about it through a TED Talk.
Okay.
Which I don't know if you know what TED Talk is. It's like TED stands for the educational department. It's through like universities or whatever.
Okay.
They do videos on YouTube or whatever. But it's one of the only countries in the world that legalizes every drug, and from amphetamine to heroin. You know what I mean, and everything in between.
Right.
And the reason why they don't do that in America is because our system is set and it's not broken. Our prison systems, especially the private prison systems like CCA, Corrections Corporation of America, and Geo Group, and George W. Hill, these for-profit prisons, number one, they're the most dangerous prisons to be in because they're not run by the government.
That's how media train there.
Yeah, it's right. They're not run by the state. They're not supervised by the state the way they should be. So they're more dangerous than going to like Camp Hill or whatever, a state prison that's not a private prison. You know what I mean?
Right.
But and then there's like Keefe Commissary Network, right? Where they charge up to $1 for a fucking 5-cent pack of ramen noodles. And Keefe is owned by the wife of Jeb Bush. Like it's total corruption at the finest level. And why, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's not about trying to save the addicts. It's not about trying to rehabilitate the criminals and stop the black market and the shootings and shit like that.
Right.
There's 2 serial killers out here right now that are actively hunting in Kensington. And nobody's talking about it. You see all these missing person flyers hanging up?
Right.
That's what that's
Why
for.
you feel like nobody's stopping this or caring to stop the 2 serial killers?
Because I'll tell you exactly why I think it is.
What?
The police don't put as much investigation in. When drug dealers kill drug dealers, they say, all right, they're doing our work for us, so fuck them.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And when addicts die, it's like, we're subhuman parasites on the community, so fuck them anyway.
Right.
But if I was some rich white lady in Rittenhouse Square that got killed in my apartment in the middle of the night, you better believe that'd be on the news every single night, fucking 7 days a week until that person's found. You know what I mean? Like, it's total class discrimination. It used to be racism, but it's not racist anymore. It's like a class war, man. Like, the rich stay rich, the poor stay poor, and they want to keep their boot on the back of our neck as much as possible.
Right.
Like, and if you don't think these fucking cops are dirty as shit, I can give you a perfect example, right? Sergeant Joseph Bologna of the 24th, 25th Strike Force was arrested. Well, no, he wasn't. He was just arrested. Well, hold on, let me tell the full story, right? He was working as a sergeant of the strike force in Kensington, and they were raiding these bodegas that sell those clear plastic bags that the blue wax bags are sold in.
Right.
Technically, it's illegal to sell them, It's a misdemeanor,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Right? So they would raid these bodegas that are owned by these Chinese immigrants that keep cash because they don't trust their government where they come from.
Right.
So they keep all cash money. They would first boot the door in, and the first thing to do is disable the camera system. They would rob the store blind. They would charge the store owners with a misdemeanor, and they would get released at the district with ROR, and then the cops wouldn't even come to court, and the case would get dropped. But now, because the camera system was disabled, they got no way to prove it. But one person had their security system backed up to their home security network.
Right.
Right? So they did a daily, they released the video feed to the Daily News and exposed this guy, Sergeant Joseph Bologna. You know what the Philadelphia police did? This was back when Seth Williams was the district attorney, who was corrupt as shit and ultimately fired and taken away and replaced by Larry Krasner. They took him off the strike force, which is technically a demotion, but he got an increase in rank from a sergeant to a staff inspector, so he got an increase in pay, and he was in charge now of the bike patrol that does the protests down in Center City. So George Floyd gets killed, the riots happen in Philadelphia, and now Staff Inspector Joseph Bologna at City Hall decides to beat the shit out of some white kid protesting for Black Lives Matter on camera with a nightstick because he didn't back up fast enough when he told him to back up. Right. He was peacefully protesting his American right to protest for equality and, you know, police brutality. Right. And this dude beats the shit out of him with a nightstick because he didn't back up fast enough. Right. You know what I'm saying? Now, Larry Krasner pressed charges on him and arrested him. And the Fraternal Order of Police, which is the police union, paid his bail. That dude didn't do a single second in his cell. He went into the district, got fingerprinted, picture taken, released 10 minutes later.
Wow.
I don't know any of you if you've ever been arrested.
So I got a question.
A lot different.
Can I ask you this? Would you tell a young girl or guy that's just starting to rip and run the streets, you know, 16, 17, 18, what advice would you give them? The youth?
I would tell them that this is literally, you are selling your soul when you become an addict. Okay. You know, I made the mistake of trusting a doctor back in the day, you know, but now I know better that doctors are glorified drug dealers, you know, they were drug dealers. Right. But anybody, like normal people, don't have the desire to stick a needle in their arm to get high. You know what I mean? Right. Like they just don't have that urge. My dad's not an addict. Right. He's addicted to work. That's his addiction. Addiction's like human nature. People are addicted to eating, gambling, sex, food, money, power. Right. Some addictions are rewarded, and some are criminalized. Like for addiction, the addiction of power, for instance, like a CEO of a major Fortune 500 company, his addictions were rewarded. Right. You know what I mean? He's praised for being, you know, super productive and, you know, super into his job and all that stuff, and getting things accomplished. Instead, we're thrown in jail because my addiction, even though I don't rob and steal to support my habit, apparently, even though I'm only hurting myself, you know, but there's something to that what makes me feel the need to stick a drug into my body, and I'm not comfortable in my own skin, you know, where I can't be content sober. And as I don't have the answer to that question, I haven't been able to figure it out yet. I mean, hopefully one day I will. Okay. Because I know that there's something wrong, but everybody out here that's getting high, if they're being honest with you, will tell you that there's something inside of them that makes them feel broken from the average person. Like they were either abused as a child or they were just born different. They felt different right from the gun bust. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's just, it could be I don't know. I don't have the answers.
Are you homeless out here, man?
Kind of, but not really. Like, I have a house to go home to, but I stay out here to save my commute to work time every day as a professional junkie.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
But I just want to let you know, man, I thank you for the talk.
No, I appreciate it.
Thank you for the advice.
Get it out there.
Get it out there for you.
Maybe it'll change if people hear it, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what it's all about, man. God bless. We're going to be praying for you, man.
This was the worst decision I made in my life. And some damage can't be undone. Some damage can't be fixed, you know?
All Time Media.
All Time Media. Thank you.